Welcome to CurioFlux. Today, we're diving headfirst into one of the most, let's say, complicated parts of being human: cheating. Now, forget the reality TV drama for a second. We're going to look at the real science, the hard data, the psychology, and the wild ways our world is changing how we think about infidelity. We're going to explore that huge, messy gap between what we say we believe and, well, what some of us actually do. So, let's just kick things off with a number. 89%. Just let that hang in the air for a moment. Any guesses what that could be?
Yep, according to Gallup, that is the percentage of Americans who say that having an affair is morally wrong. I mean, that's a huge majority. It's one of the few things people seem to consistently agree on. So that's our baseline, right? Society pretty much gives cheating a big thumbs down. But things are about to get a little more complicated.
Okay, now for our next number. Roughly 20%. Kind of feels different from 89%, doesn't it? A lot different. Because at 20%, that's the share of older Americans in one study who admitted they've actually had an affair. And there it is, the giant disconnect between our ideals and our actions. This is the puzzle we're going to try and piece together today. What is going on here? Why does this keep happening? All right, so to really start to get this, we have to get a handle on the numbers. Before we can even touch the why, we need to understand the what and the how many. So while most people say cheating is wrong, how strongly they feel about it, well, that can change depending on where you live. Take a look at this chart. In places like the US, disapproval is sky high. But then you look over at, say, France and Germany, and that number drops quite a bit. It just goes to show you that culture plays a huge role in how we judge these things. It's not as black and white as you might think. So, what's the actual damage? What's the real-world fallout from all this? Well, it's massive. This study found that a whopping 37% of people cited infidelity as a major reason for their divorce. It's right up there with the classics like growing apart or not being able to communicate. This proves that cheating isn't just some abstract moral issue, it's a primary relationship wrecker. The stakes could not be higher. Okay, the numbers tell one story. But now, let's get to the really fascinating part. What in the world is going on inside our heads? Let's peel back the layers and look at the psychology here. What makes a person's internal compass go haywire? To even begin to understand the cheating brain, you have to know about attachment theory. It's a huge deal in psychology. The basic gist is this: the way you bonded with your parents or caregivers as a little kid creates a kind of blueprint, a blueprint for how you connect with romantic partners as an adult. And this attachment style, as they call it, can actually predict a lot about your love life. Now, some of us get a shaky start, developing what's called an insecure attachment style. On one hand, you've got anxious attachment. This is when someone is constantly worried about being abandoned. They might feel like they need a lot of reassurance. On the other hand, there's avoidant attachment. These are the folks who value their independence above all else. They might get uncomfortable with too much emotional closeness and tend to keep people at arm's length. And here is where it all clicks into place. A massive new analysis from 2024, and I mean massive. They looked at data from over 13,000 people, found a seriously clear link. Look at this table. Whether it was anxious, avoidant, or other insecure styles, they all showed a significant positive correlation with cheating. In plain English, the emotional wiring from our childhood can actually make someone more likely to cheat as an adult. It's not an excuse, for sure, but wow, it is a powerful explanation. But look, our brain chemistry is only half the picture. The world we live in is the other half. And let me tell you, technology and the law have completely changed the game when it comes to cheating. So let's explore this modern habitat.
Seriously? Is there a better example of modern infidelity than a pop superstar's breakup? The whole Shakira and Piqué saga, with the diss tracks and rumors about finding out because of a jam jar, it shows you exactly how this stuff plays out now. It's not just a private matter anymore. It gets discovered through texts, gets dissected on social media, and even gets turned into hit songs for the whole world to hear.
And scientists are all over this. They've broken down what they call infidelity-related behaviors online. And it's a whole spectrum. You've got the obvious, explicit stuff like sexting, but then there's this whole gray area, the ambiguous stuff, like being super secretive with your phone, or the misleading behaviors, like, lying about who you're private messaging all the time. Technology has basically created a whole new playbook for breaking trust.
It's not just our phones that have changed, it's the actual law. And to get where we are now, you have to see how bonkers things used to be. This quote from India's Supreme Court just lays it bare. For centuries, the law didn't see adultery as a betrayal of trust. No, it was seen as a property crime. A man cheating on another man by sleeping with his wife, who is considered his property. That's a wild way to think about it, right?
And thankfully, we're seeing a major global shift away from that. This timeline shows it happening in real time. Country after country is finally decriminalizing adultery. From Turkey to South Korea to India, the courts are basically saying, hey, it's not the government's job to police what consenting adults do in private. Adultery is becoming a civil matter. A reason for divorce? Absolutely, but not something that lands you in jail.
So what happens next? The secret's out, the trust is shattered. What does the fallout actually look like? In our final section, we're going to look at the consequences and the incredibly tough road ahead for everyone involved.
I mean, has any couple dealt with this more publicly than Jay-Z and Beyonce? This quote from Jay-Z about their albums Lemonade and 444 being like therapy is so telling. It shows that if you're going to try to recover, it takes an unbelievable amount of work. For most people, that means a therapist's office. For them, it meant making two of the best albums of the 21st century. The point is, it's never, ever easy.
And let's be real, a lot of the time, the relationship just doesn't make it. We come right back to this brutal fact. No matter how much technology or laws change, the emotional devastation is a constant. As one study puts it, it's the single most common reason for divorce across so many different cultures. The pain of that betrayal is just a killer. And so that brings us to our last big question. The definition of cheating is getting blurrier, the tools to do it are everywhere, and the legal system is backing off. But what about the human stuff? Trust, loyalty, betrayal, forgiveness. As everything else shifts and changes, what parts of this age-old story do you think will stay exactly the same?